Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. Our special guest today is Rodger Gifford, but before we get into the episode, Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about our World Class Club?
A World Class Club is our members area. There's two tiers, a gold tier and a silver tier. The gold tier is $2.99. That's ad-free episodes and all the early release episodes as well, so you can watch episode 1 and episode 2 straight away. And the silver tier is 99p, and that's just the early release episodes for all our guests. So please do support us. It really helps us carry the show forward.
Yeah, remember to like and subscribe. We'll get back to you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. Our special guest today is Rodger Gifford. Rodger, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, afternoon as it is now. Yeah. Nice to be local for a change.
Yeah. So normally we're travelling up Middlesbrough, Hull,
Yeah.
London. So around the corner, great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice
20 minutes instead of 5 hours is
nice easy chat.
3.5 minutes in the car.
Well,
that's the way.
Yeah, I think it's about the same for me actually. I only live up the road as well, so there we go. But so thanks for coming on the show. One of the first things we just like to ask the guests is how they first got into football. So kind of, what was your first introduction into football, and did you used to play before you used to ref?
I was brought up in the Rhondda.
Right.
And every Saturday my dad would take me to Cardiff City on one Saturday, and when they were away the following Saturday, Tom Pentra were home in the Welsh League.
Ah, right,
It
okay.
was Cardiff, Tom Pentra. Used to take me up on the train.
Yeah.
And then started playing a bit of youth football, and then I got a rather nasty kick in the kidneys, which was rather unpleasant because I was a goalkeeper, and your goalkeepers are mad, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, if you've interviewed Neville Southall, you know that. Mad in the nicest possible way.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
But there was an advert in the South Wales Echo,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Wales's leading referee, Leo Callaghan. He went to the 66 World Cup, refereed the 68 Cup final, West Brom Everton, if I remember correctly. Big advert of him, FIFA badge.
Yeah.
Do you want to referee at Wembley? I thought, I'll have a go at that.
Yeah.
And now, 58 years later, here I am. Yeah. So that's what started me off in the Rhondda League.
Oh, right, okay.
Then progressed. I went to the Pontypridd League as well. Got on to the Welsh League. The Welsh League then was a contributed league to the Football League.
Yeah, I was going to say, prior to the formation of the FAW, was that 92, I believe. How did that work with, because like, if you're a Welsh referee now, you have to referee in Wales. How did that work before then? Or?
What happened then, we had a number of Welsh officials on the when I got on the Football League line first, there were 20-odd linesmen in the South Wales area.
Wow.
Which is a hell of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Down as far as Fishguard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
which is a fair way across. Dwindled over the years, and then the Welsh FA decided to start the League of Wales, which was their right, to amalgamate North and South. But across the border, they went, all Welsh referees off.
Mm.
And we had a number of pretty top referees in Wales at that time. And I happened to be at a game with Alex Ferguson, or Sir Alex, and mentioned it to him. What? That ain't going to happen. Leave it to me, I'll get the LMA to sort that out. And he was true to his word. And then John Deakin and myself went to London to the FA headquarters to basically state the case for Welsh referees. The FA wanted us all off.
Yeah.
The league, so a lot of the league managers didn't want us off. So a compromise was arranged basically in that those that were on stayed on, subject to performance.
Right, okay.
But then
Any new people coming through?
Natural wastage.
Yeah.
And Kerry Richards from Llangennech was the last. I think Kerry had about 20 years altogether.
Oh, yeah.
Why
Didn't know that.
Why do you think that was, that they sidelined the Welsh contingent, the
Got
FA?
your own national league, same as Scotland,
Right.
same as Ireland.
Simple as that, yeah, okay.
Was that, yeah. So we stayed on until it was time to go, and that was it. You know, so for me, Sir Alex Ferguson is one of the good guys.
Yeah.
You know, do you remember when Jock Stein died in Cardiff?
Yeah, he had a heart attack in Ninian Park.
Ninian
wasn't
Park
he? Yeah.
international game.
I was the fourth official, and he collapsed by me.
Oh no.
And the Welsh team doctor was sort of sitting there, and I went, Graham, I think you need it, and the rest is history. But the media were hounding Alex as he was then, because he was Jock's assistant. Come with me, and I got him into a private room, just separated from the referee's room, and I don't think he ever forgot that.
Yeah, so, a moment you never want to be present of, but yeah.
It happened once, I would never ever want to see it again. And of course, you've had it with, was it Patrice Mwamba?
Yeah, Bolton.
At Bolton, was it?
It was Bolton, Bolton Wanderers.
Yeah, something like that. You never want to see that on the football pitch.
No, and there's obviously been a few since Fabrice as well, hasn't there? In the last 5-6 years, 5 years, I suppose. But do you remember? So going back to when you started your refereeing career, what was the qualification or training like to actually get into the system?
Non-existent.
Right.
You went to the local referee society. They'd have guest speakers. There were no fitness tests compared to what the referees have today at top level, and a top level in Wales. Regular fitness tests. They have sports scientists, sports therapists, psychologists, individual coaches, monthly fitness test. Back when I was refereeing, we had none of that. We'd have the first fitness test I took was when I got to the Football League.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What year was that? Do you remember? You remember?
76.
76, okay.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
So,
did you start off as a linesman for a number of years before you got...
Then you refereed and lined.
Right.
Now, in 1991, I think it was, FIFA then decided to have specialist assistant referees, because with the international appointments in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and before that, the number one linesman, as they were then, was always a FIFA referee.
Right.
So if anything happened, he took over.
Right.
Yeah.
Did that happen with you one game, the first game you refed? I think I read up, and you head linesman, and then a referee got injured after a couple of minutes, and then you got sent on to the middle of the park.
Clive Thomas got injured in the first minute of Bristol City and Stoke. Shows how long ago Garth Crooks was playing. Alan Durbin was manager of Stoke, and he came in after the match, and typical Welshman, did okay, but he just got thrown in the deep end, and then a year to the day, the same Saturday the following year, the referee got knocked out at Swansea. I went on again.
I suppose those...
And I remember when I went on the first game, I thought, bloody hell.
Yeah, what was that like?
This is a bit faster than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Couldn't get out of bed the next morning. And I was due to do a game at Aber Valley in the Sunday League.
Yeah.
I think I was the literal centre circle referee that afternoon. Could hardly move because it's totally different pace of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, those moments, although not good for the injured refs coming off, I guess they kind of propelled your career almost.
It helped, but also you don't think about it. You just get on with it.
Yeah.
Were any yellow cards brandished that day, or?
I don't think there was any cautions
in
the game. We were allowed to manage in those days, if I can put it that way. Yeah. It was funny, that game when I came on, I actually got a written assessment because there was an assessor in the stand. Very famous ex-Football League referee, Harry New. And the last sentence in the report, and I'll never forget, it says, and after 89 minutes, perhaps you now realise the problems of your referee on a Saturday afternoon. Which was true, because it's a different concept being on the line, because you're concentrating on your offside line, you're looking at the touch, you've got one eye on the touchline, one eye on the ball, and one eye on that last man.
How difficult is it to get the decisions right? I mean, there's so much scrutiny on it, even more so now, how much it's been televised. You just try and do your best to be as accurate as you can, but in that kind of pressure cooker scenario, is there any element of doubt when you raise your flag and think, I think he was offside, but it's so quick that the movement and the transition.
The movement of the players, the speed of movement now, because obviously they're a lot fitter. You look at the referees, the majority of referees today, they're stick insects, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see any because it's all been professionalised, hasn't it?
You know, the last referee who had a certain build, if you like, was Howard Webb.
Mm.
And he was built like a brick outhouse, and you know.
Yeah. I'm sure he had shoulder pads on.
You know, no, he was just 15 stone of solid muscle.
Yeah.
He was an ex-police officer, wasn't he?
I was when I was refereeing, I was 13 stone 10. That would be frowned upon today.
Yeah.
You know, the old calipers would be out. Your
Yeah.
body BMI is too high.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Is it?
I got no chance.
Join the club. Yeah.
Was there any, like, even back then, though, did you still... There must have been a point where you got... Well, that's... Yeah, you're not in good shape here. Even back then, there must have been a level...
You didn't. You trained to referee. You don't referee to keep fit.
Right, okay. So as long as you were performing as a ref, you could be...
Yeah, I trained.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Okay, the training then. And I didn't just pound the roads. I'd go to a football field.
Mm.
I used to live on Cedar Way, just up on a Sir near the old Tredorman pitch.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd come down from there and I'd train on that pitch, and I'd do a few laps to loosen up. But you'd use the pitch for short, sharp shuttle runs, for example. Goal line to 6-yard box, back. Goal line to penalty area, back. Goal line to halfway line, sprint, 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 sprint. Then walk up the other end and do the same at the other end, just to get into a rhythm. Because I always remember the Olympics high hurdler Colin Jackson.
Yes, yeah.
Somebody in an interview with him, the interview, I think it might have been Ron Pickering, which is a name from the past, said, "Colin, you're always very fast out of the blocks." And he said, "Yes, because when that gun goes, I go on the B of bang, not G."
Yeah.
Now, transpose that into our game. And of course, you've got to be thinking as referee. You don't think, "Oh shit, I got to move." It's inbuilt.
You want to be right there to make the decision in the right place.
Sometimes you sacrifice distance for a better viewing angle. You can be too close to something and miss something. Give you an example, the late Graham Taylor, when he was manager of Watford.
Oh, yeah.
Referee Watford and Liverpool. Game went reasonably well. Knock on the door, Graham Taylor. "Can I come in and have a chat?" Modern day managers don't do that. People like Tony Pulis, Ron Atkinson, Graham Turner, who was manager of Wolves when I did my first division game, as it was then. They'd come in, they'd sit down, and they'd talk to you. They don't kick the door down. Jim Smith at Derby was another great guy. And Cloughy, I'll tell you a story about Cloughy later. But they would come in and talk to somebody. And Graham he'd come in and he said, "Did okay today." He said, "I know it's only your second season. You did okay, but can I ask you a few questions?" Well, if a manager of his experience is going to come in and want to talk about the game, yeah, sure. And he said, "Why do you always get side on to old-fashioned phraseology, the 9-5 situation? No, it's the 99 versus 42, isn't it? You know, centre-half, centre-forward."
Yeah.
And he said, "Centre-forward's job is to put the centre-half off. Centre-half job is to put the centre-forward off. And by getting too close, being exactly side on, you might miss that.
Yeah.
Or you might miss that.
Yeah.
Just give yourself a slight angle and just drop back a bit." Now, this is invaluable coaching coming from a manager, you know. And when people are prepared to talk to you like that, you don't get that these days.
Well, there's probably a few reasons, but what do you think the main reason is for that? The separation of managers and refs?
Yeah. Pressure.
Yeah.
I want to be careful and not upset the woke brigade, but in those days, men were men, and you could say to captains, "Sort him out before I do," and they would.
Yeah.
You know, classic story, Mark Hazelwood, former Welsh international now down at Carmarthen. He was playing for Bradford, and game's going on, and after 20 minutes I went, "Hayes, yeah, shut your number 6 up, he's getting on my nerves." "Will do." hang on, he said, I am the number 6. I said, exactly. He went, job done.
Yeah.
Absolutely job done. You know, you've got to be so careful what you say these days, don't you?
Yeah.
Like you can be more, you know, back in those days, could you be more of a stern character then and be respected as a ref rather than...
I think the word is character, isn't it? You could be a character.
You referee the moment, right? And the night I grew up as a Football League referee was the old Milk Cup, the second leg of Southampton Millwall. The manager of Millwall was George Graham, playing for Millwall, Fashanu, Dennis Wise.
Okay. Hard Knock FC, basically.
Laurie Sanchez. He's a hard man.
Yeah.
Southampton had a few hard men as well. Jimmy Case.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tiss said
heard a bit about him.
Jimmy Case. And Mark Wright. Shilton was in goals. And they had a fullback called Mark Dennis, who'd been sent off, I think, 10 or 11 times.
Oh, wow.
And first time Dennis went in for a challenge, it was an iffy one. I said, hey, that's your first, make it your last. And without the 4-letter expletives, it was, well, you do your job, I'll do mine. Okay, fair enough. 20 minutes later, he'd gone. But then, John Fashanu took out Kevin Bond with what can only be described as a vasectomy by use of studs without anaesthetic. And Kevin Bond was a hard man, but he went down. He was in pain. We didn't have cards in those days. And Fashion was sitting there and he sort of go, and I come on and went, you, off. And I did that. I smacked Joe Jordan right in the mouth.
Oh, I know.
That's why he's got no teeth.
Sounds like a Royal Rumble, this, a football match.
Still got the gum marks. And again, the polite version was, are you sending that off? Yep, fair enough. And he just walked away. You know, if I hadn't, I'd have had somebody else went later in the game. And that was the night I grew up as a referee at that level. And knowing what to say, when to say it. Yeah. Sometimes you have to be a bastard. Yeah. Sometimes you can get away with a bit of humour.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, humour, talk about Cloughy now. I did Spurs, Nottingham Forest. Ardiles, Villa, Glenn Hoddle, Ray Clements in goals. Well, you know, not a bad team.
Yeah.
Forest were up there. Shilton, Mark Wright.
Yeah.
And they had a big Dutchman called Johnny Metcod.
Right.
6'3". He could play. He'd sit in the middle of the park and he'd lay it there and he'd lay it there. And the famous green jerseys on the touchline, you know, sitting there.
Yeah.
And game kicked off. 37 seconds into the game, I give a penalty against Spurs at White Hart Lane. Clements comes out, takes out Nigel Clough. Clements got up, he looked at me and he said, can't argue with that. Don't bother applying for membership at the Spurs Supporters Club. You know, you're accepted when players say that, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's right. Penalty, 1-0 Nottingham Forest. 3 advantages, 2-2 half-time. I'm thinking, yeah, I got this. I'm walking off, and walking on towards me is Mr. Clough.
Oh, yeah.
And he went, Mr. Gifford, because he always called the referee Mr. Stuart Pearce was the same as captain. Mr. Mr. Gifford? I said, yes, Mr. Clough. He said, if that big Dutch bastard of mine opens his mouth once more, book him. I did a double take. Book him? I said, I'm having a bit of banter with him. I said, anyway, why do you want me to book him? Well, if you book him, I can find the bastard, he said. And that was Cloughy.
Yeah.
That's
when
good.
I was coming up through the ranks and lining on the floor, I lined at Villa and Forest, and I got him behind me in the dugout. And Villa scored and he thought it was offside. And again, young man, that was offside. I said, matter of opinion, Mr. Clough. Well, watch match of the day tonight. And if I'm wrong, I'll ring you Monday morning. If you were wrong, you ring me at the office. So I went, agreed. He rang me Monday morning. Can you imagine today's managers doing that?
Yeah.
He was a one-off, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, 100%.
He was a special character. You don't see as many characters in football anymore, even across management and players. What are some of the standout players that you got to interact with that you could have that conversation with, or kind of you felt?
Well, one refereeing abroad, red and the yellow is same in any language, isn't it? But I refereed Olympic Marseille, and Jean-Pierre Papin was there.
Striker, French striker.
But they had a Brazilian centre-half called Moza.
Right, okay.
And he was one of the best centre-halves ever. Old-fashioned language. I don't know what they call them these days, but he was in the centre. And his neck muscles were bigger than my thigh muscles. And if he headed the ball, he could head it, like John Charles.
Yeah.
He could really bing it. But I've been lucky. I've been on the pitch with some great players. And I'm not being unnecessarily patriotic here, but Mark Hughes, best player I ever saw with his back to goal.
Yeah.
We've spoken to a few
Giggsy.
players about how strong he was.
Andy Legg, actually, down in Neath the other week, wasn't it?
Yeah, we spoke to, and he said Mark Hughes, and he said in training, he said he's probably the strongest player he's ever seen.
You seen the size of his thighs?
Yeah, he was an absolute unit, wasn't he?
Yeah, but these were people you could relate with. I never rated Butch Wilkins and Brian Robson by watching them on television. We'd be on the same pitch as them, QPR, Manchester United, and they were the captains, saying what they were saying to the younger players, the way they were coaching players, and talking of Queen's Park Rangers, you probably remember the Allen dynasty, Martin Allen, Clive Allen, Paul Allen.
Yeah.
Young Bradley Allen was making his debut that day.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and went, "Hi, ref, you're a bit of a bastard," and the kid's 17.
That's an introduction.
Oh yeah, who told you that? He said, "My father and my two uncles." And if players can talk to you like that, you're more than halfway there.
Yeah.
Now, with television cameras, you've got to be very careful what you say. And, of course, in the climate we're in at the moment, you say the wrong thing to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you want to see it.
Cancel culture, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to see about that between the players and the ref. You want the game to flow. I think these days there's not enough interaction, and in fact the game doesn't flow as well.
You can work it out for yourself. There was a well-known former English international who started at West Ham, went to Liverpool, went to Manchester United, and then went to Wolverhampton as he was coming down through the ranks.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, Paul Ince.
And anyway, Swansea are playing Wolves in whatever the League Cup was called in those days.
Yeah.
And I was the match observer. It was at the Old Vetch Field. And it was live on Sky. And dear old Chris Kamara was part of the Sky team that day. And I've said the name now, Paul Ince. Yap. And the referee was a lad called Scott Matheson from Stockport, who was like a Frankie Dettori lookalike in build.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Small as like. And in the end, Scott had enough. And he went, "Incy, fuck off." And Incy's draw job. And that was the end of it. Anyway, I'm in the referee's dressing room, knock on the door, and it's Chris Kamara. In those days, there were no DVDs or anything like that. And he's got the match video. And he's going, "Evidence. Evidence. We've got you telling Incy to..." And I bet every referee on the league would like to do that. At that point, the referee's mobile phone went off. And he looked at it and he went, "Oh, shit." So I went, "The boss?" He said, "Yeah, you could say that." And he showed me the message on the screen. It was his wife. "Don't you ever swear in front of the children again."
Oh, well, it's for the country, really, isn't it? The kids.
Millions.
By a strange coincidence, the following Saturday I was due at Cardiff. And Scott then was a very late replacement on Friday night for the original referee. the old Ninian Park, and we're out on the centre circle, and we're talking. He said, first time I've refereed, you any advice? I said, yes. And we're in the centre circle. I physically turned him around and went, the television cameras are up there, so if you're going to tell a player off, make sure your back's that way.
Did you like refereeing at Kellan City in Ninian Park? Did you enjoy? It's a good atmosphere down there, wasn't it, in Ninian Park?
Well, fun enough, I was the observer on the last league game there, and the first one at the new stadium, at the old Vetch Field.
Oh, wow.
And the one at Liberty.
Oh, great. Yeah, like I said, the atmosphere is lost a bit down. Yeah, obviously for the big games, like Swansea this season actually was good. But the old Ninian Park, there's been more atmosphere there, wasn't it? Right on top of the pitch.
My dad took me to watch England 58, 59, 60,000 in there.
Yeah, was that the capacity there for Ninian Park? I think
was it
one of the biggest. They had
Don Howe and Jimmy Armfield were the English fullbacks.
Yeah. And the Bob Bank was a lot bigger back then. Not the Bob Bank, sorry. The Grange End was a lot bigger back then before they had the fire there. But
good old-fashioned football stadium.
Yeah.
Well, that's another point, actually. Stadiums have changed a lot over the years, haven't they? How does that affect refereeing? Do you think they're much more, well, further away?
No, you blank it out.
Yeah.
You've got to focus. You focus on what you're doing, not thinking, it's a bit noisy. I heard that. No. You just get on with it. Yeah. Everybody's different, aren't they? Referees, players, they're human beings. The players now, compared to when I was refereeing, what they're earning now to compare to 30, 40 years ago, it's peanuts, isn't it?
Well, it's astronomical, isn't it? Same for refs, I guess, as well, in terms of, what were you earning when you first started out as a referee?
My first match fee as a referee was 5 shillings and 3 old pence a mile.
A mile?
It was Treorchy Boys Club versus Ferndale Boys Club, and there was a under 16s, and there was a youngster, 12 years of age, playing for Treorchy Boys Club by the name of Alan Curtis.
Oh, wow.
And he scored the best goal I've ever seen in my refereeing career. 1988 Welsh Cup final at Swansea. Cardiff Wrexham. Ground is full. Picked up the ball in his own half, nutmegged Flinney in the centre circle. Went out to beat one, beat two, beat another one. Went down towards the North Bank side to the corner flag, and I saw Joey Jones coming across, and I thought, oh dear. And Kurt saw it, and he just stopped. And Joey just on his arse slid off the pitch into the North Bank, cut inside, got the edge of the penalty, curled a left footer, top goal.
Nice.
That was some goal. If that had been...
And how old was he then?
He was playing for Cardiff then.
Yeah. So.
If that had been Peter Beardsley, Kevin Keegan or whoever, it'd have been goal of the year. Goal of the season by a mile. And Kurt, I see him regularly when I used to go to Swansea. Lovely man. Always polite, always courteous. And in fact, I arranged the match officials for his testimonial match. And he came on for a 20-minute cameo. And he could still drop the shoulder, get past people. Yeah.
Any other goals that really stand out from memories? Any other world-class goals that you remember?
Well, which one shall I start with? Alex Ferguson. Let's start at... I've got a lot of time for Alex Ferguson. He's got a phenomenal memory for people's names. Absolutely phenomenal. And on the notes I sent you, I'd refereed Manchester United a few times, and one occasion, Mark Hughes, just outside the penalty area, ball's dropping and he's there, and I thought, he's about 10 yards outside the box. He's going to trap it, lay it off, because Giggsy was in about 20 yards of space. Leeds centre-half just went straight through him, and I blew too quickly, and the ball fell to Giggsy. And I said words to the effect of, oh dear. I had a tap on the backside. It was Brian Robson. And he said, don't worry, mate, you haven't made as many cock-ups as I have this afternoon.
Oh, right.
And Alex Ferguson came in after and he said, how could you do that to two fellow Welshmen?
Yeah.
But when Sir Matt Busby died, the Old Trafford capacity was 44,700. It's changed a bit. But you can imagine what the atmosphere was like then.
Yeah.
There were 15,000 people outside the ground come to pay their respects.
Oh, wow.
But it was also the day they had the draw for Euro 96 in Manchester.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So all the heads of European football were in the main stand.
Ah, okay.
The club secretary, Ken Merritt, rang me on the Thursday to explain the situation. Is it okay if we'd like a Scottish piper to lead the teams out on Saturday? Do whatever. Do whatever. You can't let, because at the time Matt Busby was probably one of the greatest managers ever.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we're in the tunnel, and I kid you not, you couldn't hear a sound. Total quiet in the ground. Normally, if there's 100 people in the ground, you hear something. And the poor old piper, his elbows are going like the clappers. He couldn't get the bagpipes to work.
On the way.
And then eventually got it, and you've probably seen the television where he leads the team out and one thing and another. And you just blank it out at the time. And the only time that when I got home and looked at the video, that's when I got emotional.
Right.
Because you've got to focus, you do the job. And the guest room at Old Trafford then was opposite. If we're sitting here now in the guest room, Alex Ferguson's office door was there. And he came out, he saw me, he sat down and he said, what are you looking for in the game today? So I just said, a game the old man would be proud of. And he said, yeah, I'll go along with that. Manchester United had Sparky, Giggsy, Cantona, Peter Schmeichel, Stevie Bruce. How the hell Stevie Bruce didn't win more caps for England, I'll never know. Because he was a good centre. The game started off at 100 miles an hour and got faster and faster. Kid you not, I was knackered at the end of it. But the goal was a rarity because Ryan Giggs scored with his head. You don't see many of those.
Yeah, no, you don't, do you?
All went down, crossed in, and he's there, 1-0. Only goal of the match. What was pleasing, the Everton supporters won the Sportsman of the Month award for the way they respected the minute silence and the way they behaved outside the ground. Anyway, I came off. As I'm walking off, suddenly I got an arm on my shoulder. Sir Alex, got your wish, didn't you? He said, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Cameras don't pick that sort of thing.
No, it's a nice touch.
Go off. I'm in the dressing room and I'm thinking, I've been a part of history today. I'll never have something like this again.
Yeah.
And knock on the door. And it was the president of UEFA, Leonard Johansson, a Swedish guy, who made John Wayne look small. He literally filled the doorway.
Wow.
And I'd met him when he'd come to Cardiff the previous year because I collected him from the airport to take him to the Welsh FA offices.
Right, okay.
And he knocked the door and in his sing-song Swedish accent, hello, I remember you. You picked me up at the airport, take me to the Federation. What a great game. And I was coming in, don't stand in the doorway. At which point, Graham Kelly, the secretary of the FA, is walking past. So Leonard Johansson said, Graham, come in, speak with the referee. And Kelly went, visitors are not allowed in the referee's dressing room. Like I'm going to tell the president of UEFA he can't come in.
I know, yeah.
And games like that stick in the memory,
Yeah. I mean, you listed off some world-class players there, but what was Eric Cantona like on the pitch? He's known for having a persona. Was he difficult to referee, or was he
I just got on with it.
Yeah.
I could speak a little French anyway, so
okay.
we exchanged a few pleasantries. But then you see the other side of Alex Ferguson. We had a very sad situation in the mid-90s where one of our Football League colleagues in South Wales committed suicide.
Oh, God.
Left a widow and a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And we decided, wouldn't it be great to play a testimonial game for the family, for the widow and the 2 kids. And I was in a meeting in Walsall with a colleague of mine, John Deakin, who was a former Football League referee who became the first secretary of the League of Wales.
Right, yeah.
And a guy called Neil Midgley, who was a former English FIFA referee.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, what can we do? He said, well, if you can arrange a team in South Wales, I'll have a word with Alex Ferguson, see if we send a team down. So I ended up being the main organizer, doing all the dog work, the leg work, what have you. And Alex Ferguson rang me. He said, I understand you're organising it. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What sort of team are you hoping for? I said, just give us Ryan Giggs and the kids.
Yeah.
If we have Ryan Giggs, that'll be
Get a nice full house, wouldn't it?
We played it at Cwmbran Stadium against a Cwmbran Select 11 because Cwmbran were the first winners of the League of Wales.
Right,
It was the same year that Manchester United won the Premiership for the first time. So it was billed as Welsh champions, English champions. He went, no, I'll send you a better team than that. So Giggsy was first off the bus, followed by Roy Keane, Dion Dublin, and some youngsters called Butt, Beckham and Scholes that nobody had ever heard of then. So I don't know what happened to them.
So you had the kids.
But we raised over 50 grand.
Yeah,
Wow.
brilliant.
That's
Which in the mid-90s,
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
And do you know what Manchester United charged?
0.
Zero.
yeah, that's a
So
class act.
as Alex has given me his not direct line on his desk at Carrington, I rang him up just to say thank you. We'll call it 50 grand. It was a bit more than that, but let's say we've raised over 50 grand. I just wanted to say thank you. I said, Debbie and the children are so grateful to you. Let me tell you something now, mate. He said, it's the family of football. Doesn't matter whether it's a referee or a player. We are one family. Now, that's a side of Alex Ferguson you never see on the...
No.
And then I hadn't seen him for several years. I remember when the Super Cup was played in Cardiff.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, I was looking... Clattenburg did the match and I was looking after him.
Right.
And I had a phone call 9 o'clock in the morning of the game from UEFA to tell me, oh, you better let the referee know Kalina's coming in tonight. Can you get him picked up at the airport?
Wow.
Okay, fine. We're in the VIP lounge, and we're sitting here, and over there was Alex Ferguson. We just made eye contact. He just got up, walked straight over, and I hadn't seen him in several years, and he'd remembered my name.
Oh, wow.
Now, when you consider the number of people he's met over the years, so for me, he's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one manager that you've obviously got fond memories of. Any other managers in your career that you sort of keep at a high caliber of,
Jack Charlton was a bit of a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did Liam Brady's testimonial. 1990, they were off to Italia 90. Liam wasn't going, but it was his farewell game in Dublin.
Right.
The match was sold out. And I'd met Jack several times before when he came in and did a typical... I'm pulling him off after 20 minutes. Oh, yeah. How long will you give him to wave to the crowd? I said, look, it's a friendly international, so I'm not worried. Take as long as he likes, because it's his day.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Out he goes. Anyway, word got out that the number 6 board was going up after 20 minutes. Nobody put the ball out of play, and I wouldn't blow for foul. Play on, get on with it, go on, get on with it. And you could see the steam coming out to Charlton's ears on the touchline. And after about 32 minutes, the ball went out for a throw-in. He was out of that technical area, and he got the ball, and he looked at me and glared at me. And then we got on with the game, and he came in after and he said, you bastard. But
bit of banter though.
but I had a pint with him after the game as well. But behind the one goal at Lansdowne Road, it's the Aviva Stadium now.
Yeah.
There was a big sign, big flag. You know how religious the Irish are.
Yeah.
And on that flag was, and on the 8th day, God made Jack. So he was a character.
Was that for the 94 World Cup?
90.
90.
90, yeah.
Italian, sorry, yeah, you did say, yeah. Yeah.
When they were out in Italy, I did a tour of Southern Ireland with my wife in the car. And when they played Romania in the last game, there was signs in the shop windows, everything was saying, "We are closed this afternoon because we are supporting the boys. We may or may not be open in the morning, depending on the result." But Irish hospitality is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Ireland. Fair play. I enjoyed my time over there.
My first game as an international referee was Republic of Ireland, Iceland under 18s in Dublin with two Irish linesmen.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good crack. The guy looking after me became a good friend of mine in the end, Paddy Daly. He was a policeman in the Garda.
Right, okay.
But apparently they never saw him in work because he was always refereeing or looking after people.
Football is his first passion, really.
He said, "You fancy a pint tonight now and go have a pint, go out for a meal?" Yeah, fine, not a problem. So we're on this back street, Dublin. And he come to a door and it knocks the door and the hatch opens and there's voice. And I looked at that. "Ah, 'tis you, Paddy. Coming in." So we go in. So 10 minutes into the MC on the stage says, "We've got a very special guest in the room tonight, Mr. Rodger Gifford, refereeing the game tomorrow against Iceland, blah, blah, blah. Welcome, enjoy your stay." And Paddy just turned to me and said, "Any idea where you are?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in a pub in Northern Ireland, in Dublin." No, he said, "You're in the IRA headquarters."
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember the result of that game as well? Or?
I think Ireland won 1-0, if I remember correctly. But
You got out,
He
you
was-
got out okay then.
in the Garda, he was permanently armed. He always had his pistol on him. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Ireland's a fantastic, good crack in Ireland. Always.
Mm. Yeah.
Any Irish players in the 18s that went on to be any under 18 Irish players went on to be full internationals in that team?
Yeah. Refereeing abroad, I refereed Barcelona out in Iceland at the end of October, and it was bloody cold. We had a male streaker.
Okay. Unusual.
I thought the cold was supposed to make things so smaller. It could give me an inferiority complex.
That's why he ran on, probably.
Yeah, Cruyff was manager of Barcelona then, and he came in for a chat before the game, quite normal, no pressure, and sent one of his players off after 20 minutes. Didn't have any option, off he went. Cruyff came in after, he said, "No complaints." But I say, in those days, I remember doing a game at Fulham at the old Craven Cottage. Right? And I had a linesman who made you look anorexic.
Wow, Jesus.
Yeah, he was big.
Yeah.
But, and he, game's going on, and they're playing Stoke, and Lou McCarthy was the manager of Stoke. And I refereed Lou McCarthy's first ever game as a manager in the Football League at Swindon, which was my first game in the middle. And we just hit it off. It was anyway. Game's going on. Suddenly, big bad Barry, who was my colleague on the one side, is the far end from the corner entrance to the pitch.
Okay.
And we didn't have comms kits in those days, and he's flagging, and he's going, "Come over." Went on, "Yeah, what's the problem here?" Him over there. And of course, this player had now disappeared over the far side of the field. He said, "I couldn't quite understand the Scouse accent. I'm not sure if he called me a little shit or a little cheat." Okay, he's going for an early bath. You're not there to take a bit.
Yeah.
No, he said, "Frighten him. Go on. Frighten the life out of him." So I thought, okay. I went. And I walked right into the middle of the field to meet him. I said, "You got one or two options, mate. You can either go over there 30 yards and publicly apologise to my mate, or you can go 80 yards down there and sit in the dress room for the next half hour." And you could see the look. And I said, "I ain't joking." He went over. He apologised. Right, game carried on. I hadn't got off the field 2 minutes. Lou McCarthy said, I got to ask you. what did that Scouse git say? So we told him. And you made him apologise. Well, I gave him the option, Lou. Thank you. He shook my hand, and as he's gone out, he said, that'll cost him 2 weeks' wages.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, again,
Yeah.
you wouldn't see a manager doing that.
No.
Another one was Dixie McNeil. Played for Wrexham, managed Wrexham.
Yeah.
I refereed Dixie's testimonial for him against Newcastle. But he sent one of his players off for... He basically elbowed somebody in the face off the ball. And right down by the corner flag. And in those days, there was to be no contact between managers and referees. Knock on the door, and it was Dixie. So, coming in, Dixie. Got to ask you, he said, what did you send him off for? Said he elbowed somebody off the ball, Dixie. Left us no choice. Appreciate you telling me. That's going to cost him. That'll be 2 weeks. Thanks for telling me. Appreciate you allowing me in. Then a young linesman who was in his first year, I thought the regulation said that nobody's allowed in. I said, well, let's put it this way. If I'd have said you can't come in, he'd be talking to the media now, saying the referees don't talk to us. I've explained, and he'll go and tell the media exactly what's happened, and we gain more respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a big deal wasn't made of it either.
No big deal.
Yeah.
You just get on with it. And it's, again, how you handle things on the day. Did a quarter-final of the old, I think it was the Milk Cup in those days, when we had that horrible yellow kit or purple kit, which I wouldn't be seen dead washing the car in. But anyway, quarter-final, Villa against Arsenal. Well-known English international playing for Arsenal, well-known Welsh international playing for Villa.
Yep.
And the Welsh international's having an absolute bloody nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Whatever he did went wrong. And this well-known English international kept winding him up. And then after about an hour, the Welsh international goes up to head the ball, slips and falls flat on his backside. As he comes down, he knocks the ball away with his hand. So it's just a simple handball. Right? Blew the whistle, give the free kick, and I'm right behind the situation. And the English international laughed at him and called him a Welsh. And I'm standing right behind him, so I tapped him on the shoulder and went, yeah. I said, I'm a Welsh so-and-so as well, and he scored more bloody goals in internationals than you, haven't he? And he just looked at me and said, you taking the piss? I said, yeah. And he burst out laughing and shook my hand.
Yeah.
Game controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah, there seems to be like a high level of man management involved in these
Do
situations.
you remember when Coventry won the FA Cup?
Yeah.
They brought the cup down to Swansea in a pre-season friendly. I did the game, and there was a rather hot-headed little Scotch player called David Speedy. Right? He made Craig Bellamy as a player look like an angel. Right? And what a good job Craig Bellamy's doing at the moment, isn't he, in fairness to him? Yeah. And he didn't stop. And shot on goals. Jimmy Rimmer, did he touch it? I couldn't tell. I just give a goal kick, and Speedy's alongside me going, hey, you, that was a so-and-so corner. So I just turned to him and I said, it's Mr. to sods like you. And he just looked gobsmacked. And he said, nobody's ever spoken to me like that before. I said, welcome to my world. And he shook my hand, went off, and the fixtures came out for the first Saturday of the season. I've got Coventry, Wimbledon.
Oh, right, okay.
And we were leading the teams out, and the next thing is a hell of a bump on my arm. God, Speedy running past me, ran back and winked at me and gave me a thumbs up. First Coventry player opened his mouth. Speedy is there, got his hand around his mouth. Shut up, let him get on with it.
Yeah.
So I'd already controlled that game because I had Speedy in my back pocket.
On side, yeah.
But, the television cameras as they are now, you've just got to be so careful what you say, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's all about managing the situation.
Yeah. You had a lot of managers knocking your door, coming in and speaking to you and asking you about your decisions. Did you ever feel, not you, maybe not, but other referees, was there any sort of pressure to lean on a particular team with your decision making to favour a side more than another one?
Making a decision on a football field is like you going out to here, getting in your car. You don't think about it, do you? You react.
Yeah.
You go in, you press the fob, you get in, you check the review mirror, overtake your mirror, put it, and off you go. Refereeing is exactly the same. You tell me how the whistle goes from there to there.
Just call it as it is.
Yeah.
Gut feel.
These were my VAR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of VAR,
And how many mistakes were made in those days?
Yeah.
You see, you've got a situation now that when VAR came in, the observers were told you have to support it even if you don't agree with it. Whereas in Europe, the mandate was clear. If you disagree with a VAR decision, you say so.
What do you make of VAR anyway? Do you think that would have been something beneficial?
My comment at the time was, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
I mean, for the offside, do you think as a linesman, it takes a bit of pressure off you as a linesman to get the right decision? Because you can always go back to the camera. I know they've messed a few decisions up there as well. But,
Or not even make the decision, they just let it run, don't they?
They even need linesmen.
Yeah, and there's a danger in letting it run if somebody comes across and wipes somebody out.
Yeah.
Well,
It's an added risk of injury.
If you've got a potential one-on-one situation, the keeper comes out, he wipes the guy out, and it's a sending off offence, and then suddenly offside. You've got a problem, haven't you?
You have.
Yeah. Thankfully, I've been in football a long time. In the 50s, they said the refereeing is worse than it's ever been. They said the same in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the noughties, and the referees now under far more pressure than we were when I was refereeing.
Yeah. There seems to be, alongside VAR, there seems to be a lot of clubs escalating it. Is it a PG MOL? Where they, if they're not happy with the decision, there's like, I think it was that the one I remember more prominently was the Liverpool game with the offside. I think it was Diaz, he scored against Tottenham, and then he was like about, I don't know, a foot or two yards onside, and they called it offside, and then they kind of raised it to the refereeing body. I don't remember that being so much of a thing prior to VAR and things, so...
Every assistant's going to get an offside goal. The speed of movement of the players, he can be half a yard onside, but by the time the ball's come 50 yards, they've got to correlate ball being passed to his movement, to where he is, to his movement.
Yeah.
And it's harder being an assistant than it is being a referee, because I know what a foul is. It's a gut feeling.
Yeah.
I don't need VAR to tell me what a foul is. And sometimes you go, if you say to a player, sorry mate, I got that wrong, they'd accept it back in the day. They might have a little bit of pop, and if a player made a balls up a couple of minutes later after he had a pop at me, and I said, how much you getting paid to do that? You have a laugh, and you get on with it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, what are some of the players as well? Like you mentioned Roy Keane earlier. What was he like? Did you ever have any interactions with Roy? And because I imagine he was like quite vocal on the pitch, and he got himself into trouble a lot.
Yeah, he was just coming into play as I was retiring, so I didn't have any problem. But when I retired, I went into the coaching, development, and what have you, and then working with UEFA. And
what year was that? Your retirement?
I retired in 96, and then one door closes, another opens. My last two matches were at the old Principality Stadium,
right?
Yeah,
and Wembley, 2 consecutive weekends. A nice way to go out.
Yeah, definitely.
The coaching door opens. Got appointed to the UEFA panel, which obviously chuffed with that. And as you go through the system, and being an observer in many ways, like being a referee, you have the right game in front of the right person. It's like if a well-known Football League manager goes to a National League game or a League 2 match and sees a youngster, thinks he's got potential, and he keeps an eye on him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I was just beginning to get my feet under the table, and had a phone call and it was the guy from UEFA who did the observer appointments.
Right, okay.
And his name was René Ebele, and he worked for UEFA when they had a staff of 8.
Okay.
It's now over 400.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, he rang me up and he said, "Hey, my friend, it's René from UEFA. Can you help me out? I have a problem for the weekend after next in the Euro 2000 qualifiers. Are you able to cover it for me?" So I didn't ask where it was. I said, "Yeah, of course I will." So he started laughing and he said, now you say you go, now I tell you where you go. Georgia versus Albania.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you have the under-21 match on the Friday. You have the A International on the Saturday. And in those days, we had to make our own travel arrangements. But he said, on this occasion, we will make the travel arrangements for you. And the referee for the A game, the big international, got taken off it because he was from the former Yugoslavia.
Right,
And they were having problems with Albania, so politically. And he was the unfortunately named Ivan Arsic. so he got taken off again. Anyway. He said, we have...
How are you using that?
He said, we will fly you will fly this way, that way, that way. Okay, fine, no problem. He said, my friend, I tell you, you have helped me out, I will not forget. And you get many people in life saying, I'll not forget you. So yeah, about 3 weeks later, the phone goes, hi, it's René from UEFA. I have good news, I have bad news. But I tell you, I'll not forget you. So I said, well, what's the good news? He said, you would like to be referee observer, Bayern Munich, Barcelona in the Champions League? And I'm sort of, what?
Yeah.
And my wife's looking at me saying, what's the problem? I said, can you say that again, René, please? Yeah. I said, the good news is you are referee observer, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. I said, well, what's the bad news? He said, I am the venue director, see you in Munich. And he put the phone down, and worked with him there. And from that on, instead of getting 3 or 4 games a season, I was getting 10, 12 games a season.
Yeah.
And
Was it all over Europe then, were you?
yeah,
All over.
60 different countries.
Wow. Well, a career that is. Well,
Yeah, some don't exist anymore. But yeah, it was. I've been very lucky. I've been to some wonderful places, just because I could blow a whistle.
Yeah, it's fantastic, really, isn't it? So considering the journey you had.
Being paid to watch football, travelling business class,
yeah.
best hotels, best restaurants.
Yeah.
Well, but you put the work in as well, though, didn't you? It didn't just come.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that
done
sounds
the years
like-
and years
I had
before.
a very understanding employer, because when I was refereeing, my employer used my refereeing for the company.
Right, okay.
We had a lot of suppliers in Lancashire at that time, and if I was refereeing, say, Blackburn, Manchester, whatever, then they'd get tickets for the game. My first A international was Northern Ireland against Denmark, I think it was. I think it was Pat Jennings' 100th game, something like that. And our biggest supplier was Newtown now. It's 20 miles outside Belfast. So it was a business trip. So after the game, the day after the match, I went to visit the supplier. And
So you tied it together.
it worked. And then I was getting more and more games. So I got made redundant, as it happens in life. So I decided the last 2 years I just referee, because my wife was working, earning a good salary. And because they knew I was always available, I'd be Tuesday, Saturday. On one occasion, I did 3 live televised matches in the space of 8 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? And the following Saturday, I didn't have a game. I do a local league game. You know, that was important. Support your local league was where you started. So I went up to Pen-y-Bryn, just up by Getliger there.
Yeah.
And I'm walking out, I've got match ball in my hand, and there in the goal mouth are 2 young kids, absolutely plastered in mud. And their mum is going to kill them when they get home, because they're absolutely
Head to toe.
filthy. One's about 10, one's about 5, and one's kicking in, one's saving. And the big one looked at me and he did a double take and he said to his little mate, hey, he said, look who it is. It's that famous ref from the Brad. So I thought, fame, I've been recognised, So I carry on walking. He runs after me and he prods me in the stomach and he said, yeah, mister, my buddy tells me you're famous. Well, I said, some people say so, son. And he looked up and he said, you're a big-headed bastard, aren't you?
No way.
Nothing like being brought down to earth.
Yeah.
Coming back to local football.
It's brilliant. You mentioned some of the places that you travel to. One of the interesting ones that we've got from the notes is traveling to Palestine. What was that like? Trying to
unique.
Yeah, it seems that would be
the word. Yeah.
What year we talking here?
97, 98,
okay,
something like that. Yeah. Palestine had applied to become members of FIFA. So through the British Council and FIFA, they wanted somebody to go out and spend time out there. 6 weeks, 3 weeks, and then another 3 weeks to sort the wheat out from the chaff, so to speak, and then the next 3 weeks more advanced training.
Mm-hmm.
So that landed on my doorstep, and I was offered it. I thought, this is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's the West Bank and
okay,
Gaza.
Yeah.
So you have to go through Israel to get there.
Yeah.
And if you saw what was going on then compared to now, it was kid stuff. But when you have little old ladies, and I mean little old ladies, sitting on a blanket outside the Damascus Gate, who are Palestinian, trying to sell apples, pears, whatever, to make a few, and the Israeli police hitting them with batons.
Wow.
And that's going back then.
Yeah.
And the hospitality was outstanding, because in the Arab culture, if your worst enemy comes to your door, you have to offer hospitality. If you don't like them, you still have to offer the hospitality. Afterwards, you can take out and shoot them, doesn't matter. You have to, and it had two chairmen of the referees committee, chairman of the West Bank committee, chairman of the Gaza referees, and they were like chalk and cheese. The guy on the West Bank only wanted his referees, nobody from Gaza, whereas the guy from Gaza was brilliant. And he invited me to his house as a guest, but what I found strange was there was a knock on the door, and it was his wife. Because there were 3 men in the room, she had to knock the door to ask permission to come in, which I found strange.
Yeah.
Now, if we 4 are walking out there now to that door to go out, and a lady goes to come in, we automatically step back to let the lady first.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the Arab world.
Yeah.
But I did it, and what are you doing? So the first thing I organised was a fitness test.
Right.
And I give them the bleep test, the 20-yard shuttle. The level 1 is 9 seconds to go 20 yards, 20 metres, and you can walk it. Right? And I had people dropping out at level 2. So, okay, you, out, finish. No. Yeah, you, out, finish. Oh, I'm friend of chairman. I don't care. If you're friendly with Yasser Arafat, you're out. No, I stay. So the chairman comes over. What is the problem? He gets to just past level 1. The pass, you've got to get to level 9.2.
Yeah, he's never getting there, is he?
So he's got no chance. So he's out. No, he's my friend. Let him stay. No, he goes. No, he stays. Okay, I said, very simple. I have already been paid. He stays, I go, no FIFA referees. He went.
Don't blame you, yeah.
And then the games in Palestine, the facilities were terrible. And the game any game couldn't take place unless the army was present.
Wow.
No armed people there, no game's off. The referees' kits, they were like ragtag and bobtail. They were, anyway. There was one game where the referee had a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And what I did as an exercise for the other match officials, they had to write a report on their colleague from an observer's point of view. And we're having the meeting now, and everything I do, obviously, some of them didn't speak English, so everything's going through the interpreter. When and they were tearing their colleague apart. They were merciless. They made me look like a good guy, right? And the art of observing is, if you're going to make a comment which is advice, it has to be constructive. Anybody can find fault, but you have to offer advice how that can be rectified. Right? And I'm making an observation when suddenly knock on the door and an envelope comes in. So somebody took the envelope, and it's all, Arabic, and handed it to the chairman, and he started reading it, and I could see his face drop. So at the break, I said, "What's the problem?" And he handed me the line and said, "Read that." Of course, it's in Arabic, so I can't read it, so I give it to the interpreter. It's the manager of the team that lost today. They don't want this referee, and that you said that this referee had a very poor game, and I hadn't spoken to anybody because I would never comment publicly to a manager. My friend, you were upset. I said, "I'm not upset, I'm just bloody annoyed. The guy's telling lies. Excuse me, I must make phone calls." So he goes out and he comes back. "Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, will you please be ready in the reception of the hotel? Because the president of the Palestinian Football Federation wishes to meet you." Okay. The president of the Palestinian Football Association was Yasser Arafat's head of military intelligence.
Oh, God.
So I was taken to the PLO headquarters by two guys who made WWE wrestlers look small. And he apologised most profusely and presses a button on his desk, and the manager of the guy's got it, and he's been flogged. He's been given the lash.
God.
And he said, "This is how we treat people who insult our guests." So I was half tempted when I came home to say, "I've got this great idea for dealing with managers who abuse referees in the future," but I don't think it would have gone down very well. Yeah.
You can't imagine Sir Alex Ferguson getting flogged because you have to get.
That sounds like
Did you expect it to go like that far over there, really, or was it just like
Different culture, you've got to grin and bear it. Like, on the other hand, on the hospitality side, the treasurer said, "Okay, now, on the last day," he said, "you fly home on Saturday?" "Yeah. We finish the course on Thursday, so on Friday, before you go home, we're going to take you sightseeing, and you will come to my farm for lunch." Now, I got a vision of a farm, oranges, lemons.
Yeah.
I smelt the farm 2 miles before we got there because he was a chicken farmer.
Oh, okay.
On the tour, they took me to Bethlehem. From Bethlehem to the Garden of Gethsemane. Then walked the Via Dolorosa, where Christ walked with the cross, to the site of the crucifixion and the site of the resurrection.
Wow.
And I tell you what, that's like having a block of ice put down your spine. In Bethlehem, there were people of our age, grown men crying. The emotion was so much. And then the walk up there to the site of the crucifixion and the resurrection. And what was interesting, the site of the crucifixion is less than a quarter of a mile away from where the Prophet Muhammad is supposed to have ascended to heaven.
Right, okay.
Because there's two main churches in Jerusalem. The Holy Sepulchre, where 5 major religions share.
Yeah.
And the Church of the Golden Dome, where the Muslims worship. And at the dinner, the sort of farewell dinner, they presented me with, it's about that size, by about that size, stainless steel with an etching of the Golden Dome, with gold leaf with the golden, and inscribed in Arabic and in English, to our teacher, Mr. Rodger, thank you. That's pride of place on the office in our wall.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of time for the Palestinians then. Now today, obviously, it's a much different world now, isn't it?
It sounds like a mixed emotion of a trip. What was the second 3 weeks like there? Was that just your first 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Did you go back out there after that then?
Yeah, I went for another 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like a surreal experience from the refereeing perspective, but also then from a personal perspective. You were kind of connected from, let's call it grassroots, all the way up to kind of like head of state or whatever, top level of person in that country.
You meet some great people in. I was observer for Panathinaikos Juventus, 70,000 at the Olympic Stadium in Athens. Whoever won the match qualified for the next stage of the Champions League, which in those days was worth about 10 million.
Yeah.
And Juventus had 2 players sent off, and the place was, the tent, you could feel it. You could cut it with a knife. And Carlo Ancelotti was manager of Juventus. And to my colleague, fellow from UEFA, I said, I think the shit's going to hit the fan here at 90 minutes, so I'm going down to the technical area to be close at hand. So I got down to the technical, stood by the 4th official, and he looked at me and he said, oh, thank you. Anyway, Panathinaikos win 2-0, so they qualify, Juventus don't qualify. And Ancelotti marches straight on the field towards the referee. I thought, oh dear. So I followed him. And he walked up to the referee and the two shook their hands. And his English wasn't that good in those days. So I'll be true. My players, stupid. Thank you. And walked off. Can't imagine Mourinho doing that, can you?
No.
Yeah.
That's respect for the
I'll
decision.
tell you a story about Mourinho in a minute. But we had... what was the other game? Manager of, again, Juventus. It was Marcello Lippi. Managed Italy.
Yeah.
They were playing Real Madrid semi-final of the Champions League. And the manager of Real Madrid was Del Bosque.
Yeah.
And they were 2 chain smokers. Right? And in the technical areas, there was a pile of cigarettes and fag ash about that high in front of both technical areas. But the winning goal for Real Madrid, Roberto Carlos,
Right, okay.
he could strike a ball, couldn't he?
Yeah, just about.
For sure.
Oh, God.
And he was 20, 25 yards outside the penalty area. If that's the penalty area where the table is there, he's this side. And he rifled a shot through right into the bottom corner. And there are 3 Real Madrid players in the position of offside. Right? One arm goes up. The assistant flagged. So I thought, this is going to be interesting. So I don't know whether one of them touched the ball or not. I don't know. But it's a question you ask the match officials in the debrief after. The match officials were from Norway. And we go for the debrief. Terry Hauger was the referee. I said, Terry, I've got to ask you about the Real Madrid second goal. And he said, it's very simple, my friend. Ole, he flagged for offside. So I said, why did you flag, Ole? He said, because I could not tell if the ball had touched one of the players. If it had, and I know flag, he said, I'm dead. If I put the flag up, Terry can overrule me. And justice is done. So I turned to the referee and Terry, I said, as you were going over to Ollie, I could see your hand doing that, pointing towards the halfway line. So I said, when Ollie said to you what happened, what did you say to him? I said, very simple, I'm going to fucking kill you. Real Madrid. What was interesting, Lippy, I saw him a little bit later, and he came up to me and said, a senior observer, Real Madrid, number 2 goal. If Juventus score, I want goal. No complaint. Managers were more respectful in those days. Whereas when Mourinho, he was manager of Milan.
Yeah.
And the game was, funny enough, Panathinaikos again in the Olympic Stadium. A couple of days afterwards, obviously. And he was manager of Milan. And the referee of the game was a guy called Majuto Gonzalez from Spain. And he'd refereed the Champions League final in the stadium the year before when Liverpool came back from 3-0 down.
Oh, right, yeah.
To win.
Yeah.
And for some unknown reason, Majuto Gonzalez is a superstar in Greece. Right? Everybody loves him. Right?
Okay.
He's refereed there before.
Okay.
So we come back from the evening meal the night before the game, and we pull up on Syntagma Square, right outside our hotel. In the hotel next door is the Milan team. And who's outside, walking up and down, on his mobile phone, Mourinho. And he's jabbering away. Yeah. And we get out the car, and 4 teenagers come round the corner. Kidding on, 4 teenagers, football scarves, and they go, look who it is. So Mourinho went, I call you back. He put his phone in his pocket, gets his pen out. They walk straight past Mourinho and asked the referee for his autograph. And I thought, strike one for the referees.
Brilliant, yeah. That must have hurt his ego, that.
Take a bruise,
Yeah.
Probably the greatest self-publicist there's ever been, I would
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the year Inter Milan won the Champions League? He won it with Inter Milan, didn't he, Mourinho?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember which year that was.
Oh,
Yeah.
09, I think, wasn't it? 08, 09.
Yeah, the
Milito.
black and blue and that.
And
That's
Neto.
Inter. Yeah.
Yeah.
AC Milan's red and black.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of other incidents I wanted to ask you about. I got the Andy Dibble goal, where he heads out of the goalkeeper's...
Perfectly legal
Yeah.
at the time.
You were ref in that game, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah, it was perfectly legal at the time because the law said hand or goalkeeper's got control of the ball if he has it in his hands, plural.
Right, okay.
And Dibble's holding it up like that. So it's perfectly legal. On the Monday morning, I got a phone call from the referee's office of the Football League, and he's a Manchester City supporter.
Oh, right.
I'm thinking, oh dear. And he said, well, it breaks my heart to say it, but you're right in law. Peter Swales threatened to sue me for £1 million if they got relegated, but no, you got it. And the following week, I was refereeing a quarter final of I think it was the UEFA Cup or Cup Winners' Cup out in Belgium, and I'm coming out into the airport, and people are going, "Ah, Monsieur Gifford." No, I've even seen over there. Yeah. But again, Cloughy came in after. He said perfectly legal, nothing wrong with it, as he would anyway. So it's just one of those things. I suppose a claim to fame in that particular season.
Do you think that should still be allowed? That rule?
Well, they changed the law.
They changed it
the
so
following season.
you're not allowed to interrupt the motion.
They changed it to hand or hands
Yeah.
instead of hands.
Do you think it should be as it was? Because it makes the game more interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, might see it again, yeah.
Yeah, the keeper's got to be switched on, haven't he?
Oh, yeah.
People drew comparisons with a goal that was disallowed by George Best in Belfast. I was different. He raised his foot. There's a potential danger there, isn't there, with the keeper's just throwing the ball up.
Okay.
You raise the foot because you've got to allow the keeper once he's to release the ball.
Yeah, I have seen that
If
goal.
It was
Disallowed.
in his right hand there. If he's just holding there, what's the danger of just going?
Yeah. Runs around the back of him, doesn't he? And just
Bring it back.
Just
Yeah.
thought you could potentially injure his hand or something like that. And
Yeah. Another claim to fame as well, I think, was at the time the fastest red card.
Oh yeah.
Tim Flowers, Blackburn,
Rovers
Leeds.
against Leeds.
Yeah.
it was interesting because when I look at the clip now, though technically the decision was right, but my positioning after the offence was bloody awful. I went to the goal line and got my back to the players instead of turning around more quickly. And that was a particularly hard game of football to referee. And there were some goal line clearances. And even Alan Hansen on Match of the Day said, well, look at the referee, he's perfectly placed. But it was a very difficult game to referee. Anyway, I did the game, and Kenny Dalglish wasn't happy because I think that it was a draw. Anyway, 3 weeks later, I get a telephone call from the Sun.
Okay.
I see you've got Blackburn again. I said, well, you know something I don't know because we haven't had the fixtures yet. Haven't had the appointments. Yeah, you got Aston Villa, Blackburn. How do you feel about it? Another game? Not a problem. Now, Tim Flowers always goes to the referee's dressing room before the game with his gloves to check the match ball. Right? It's part of his pre-match. And it shows the difference between footballers of his generation and today's generation in that Tim always took his wife and kids to Tenby or Saundersfoot for holidays every year.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And knowing that I'm Welsh, whenever he came in, he'd always ask, been to Tenby, any new restaurants where I can take the wife and kids, blah, blah, blah. You know, so I told the lads, look, 45 minutes, Tim Flowers will be in, check the ball. Didn't know he did that. I said, yeah, he does it every game. 45-minute knock on the door. He comes in, he looks at me. No hard feelings. I did what I had to do. You did what you had to do. Shook hands, the ball, knock on the door. Kenny Dalglish, in a broad Glaswegian accent, went, Tim, I just want you to know you've been in Rodger's dressing room longer than you were on the pitch for the bloody Leeds game. And he walked out again.
Great.
Really
You know, was this 70 seconds, was it?
72 seconds.
72.
Yeah, it's been beaten since then.
Yeah. How long did that stand for, that record then?
Oh, a long time.
Yeah.
Who is it now?
That's a quick reminder.
Who is it now? I didn't look, to be
I
honest.
think
No, I'm not so sure.
Vinnie Jones got done after 6 or 7 seconds once.
Okay. Similar era then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I got the game in the League Cup that nobody wanted. It was when Wimbledon were crown sharing with Crystal Palace.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They threw each other in the League Cup.
Okay.
Ah, okay.
So Wimbledon were the away team. And the door opens, Vinnie Jones.
Right.
And he looked at me and he rolled up his shirt and he had the Welsh Dragon tattooed across there.
Oh, wow.
And he said, 750 quid to prove I'm a Welshman.
Yeah.
So,
What was Vinnie Jones like on the pitch? I imagine he must have been a nightmare to referee, but yeah, because he was well, there's that famous picture of him with Gascoigne,
yeah.
isn't it?
yeah, he was.
Giving him a bit
I
of a
always found
squeeze.
if you treated them with respect, you got respect back.
Yeah.
And if they committed a foul, they knew it.
Mm.
Right? Because I remember having Wimbledon and Luton once.
Oh,
And
right,
Mick
yeah.
Harford, centre forward for,
Yeah.
for Luton.
Tough guy.
He was a hard man.
Yeah.
And he was playing marking Eric Young,
Oh, right,
another
yeah.
hard man.
Yeah.
You just let him get on with it. You
Yeah.
know, there was one game. It was the last day of the season. It was Portsmouth Derby.
Right, okay.
The first game played over Christmas. 5 red cards.
Oh.
It's the last day of the season, and I've got 8. And I'm thinking, and Portsmouth's average crowd was 14,000, but Fratton Park was absolutely jam-packed, 28,000 in there.
Wow.
And did the match, and there was a goalkeeper for Sheffield United was John Burridge.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a loony if ever there was one.
You're not the first to say that.
Yeah.
Before the match, knock on the door, police commandant comes in, and he's one of those. He was like a regimental sergeant major.
Right, okay.
He had the peak of the cap down over the bridge of the nose, stood with his thumbs down the seams of his trousers, and he just went, Mr. Referee, any player heard using foul, stroke abusive, stroke insulting language will be arrested at half-time or full-time, and I will advise you accordingly.
Wow.
So I said, fine. So I take it when the crowd start chanting, "Who's the bastard in black?" You're going to arrest them, are you?
Yeah.
He just turned around and walked out. But we had a couple of pitch invasions.
Mm-hmm.
Had to take the players off. And both managers were, game's over. I said, yeah, if the game's over, I won't be on the league next year. You know, we have to go out because we're not letting them beat us. At which time, on the far side from the changing rooms, everybody's virtually standing on the touchline. And there's about a dozen police dogs walking up and down in front of them.
Yeah.
I said, look, we'll go out. We're just going to pay a token 2 minutes, because there's about 3 minutes to go. And then we're going to get off. So the manager, they were fine with that. So games carried on. They're getting closer and closer to the touchline. So a goal kick to Sheffield United. So I went up to John Burridge and said, look, do yourself a favour, John. Wait for me to blow the whistle, please. And once you kick that ball, run like hell. Oh, where will you be? I said, I'll be standing in the players' tunnel. Yeah, and that's what we did. I went to the touchline, blew the whistle, and he would have beaten Usain Bolt that day.
Yeah.
And everybody got off safely.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there is some common sense sometimes, isn't there, where you can tell, when there's a hostile situation, you can tell players stand by the tunnel because there's going to be a pitch invasion and get off safely. And yeah.
I know you mentioned about fixtures and picking up games. Do you know, start of the season, were you given a list for the season, or was it Saturday to Saturday, Tuesday to Tuesday?
In those days, we'd have a monthly appointments list.
Right.
Okay.
And it would come out and your games would be highlighted. And then with the betting scandals and what have you, the appointments started coming out. For next Saturday's appointments will come out 4 o'clock on a Monday afternoon.
Right.
But shorten the window.
Shorten the window, yeah. Because there were a lot of problems with gaming and betting and what have you.
Yeah,
we were chatting about it in the car on the way up, weren't we? I mean, Bruce Grobbelaar, say his name, Bruce Grobbelaar was around that time, wasn't he?
Against Aston, I think it might have been against Villa, was it? Maybe a goal.
Not sure.
A goal had gone in. But
Malatiz, yeah.
Well, he kicked out. He tried to kick it out a touch, and he didn't quite make it to the touchline, and he kind of come unstuck on that one. But yeah.
There was a testimonial match in Swansea for one of them former managers, Bobby Smith. He came down to Liverpool to play in that and didn't charge.
Oh wow!
You know, there's a lot of good things go on behind the scenes, which
you don't see.
never get publicised.
Yeah.
How were the refs approached with that sort of thing then, with betting or maybe a bribe and such?
Yeah, I got asked to do quite a few sort of testimonial games over the years, and you referee it for what it is. You know, and I don't do anything stupid, lads. It's any game. One game, the game against for Bobby Smith's testimony, Bobby Gould brought the Welsh team down right, to play for a run-out. But he changed all 11 players at half-time. You know, poor old fourth official with the board.
Yes. Arms are aching.
You know, but, you know, when you get asked to do a testimonial by the guy whose testimonial it is, that's pleasing.
Yeah.
You know, and you say to the lads, look, let's remember why we're here today, like Liam Brady.
Yeah.
We're paying respects to Liam, you know.
Yes, it's moments.
And the Irish crack, as I say, is quite good.
Yeah. Did you ever get from a player sort of match fixing perspective, a sniff of any like odd situations in your career, like
purposely trying to get booked,
where you think,
or kicking something out for the throw in, maybe.
Yeah,
how'd you miss that, or I don't know.
There
Yeah,
was lots of stories going around in the 60s and 70s. There was a famous Scottish referee who went to the 1970 World Cup, and he went to Milan to referee it was the Champions Cup in those days, and he and his colleagues accepted handmade suits as a gift for the match. And when he got back, he was immediately suspended by the Scottish FA, and he was sacked from his job because they'd given him so much time off in football. Certain countries try it. Now, you could guarantee when Olympic Marseille were in there, you go to your hotel room, there'd be a big bag of goodies on the table when you got there. I would collect them and put them down in reception.
we're talking like,
Yeah.
I guess we're not talking like chocolates or anything like that.
Jam you like sort of thing.
It was Paris Saint-Germain played CSKA Moscow, and as it happened, I was the observer in Moscow and in Paris, and the Russians decided to take a small goodie bag into the referee's room before the match. And only a small bag, a half bottle of vodka and a pennant. Paris Saint-Germain went ballistic.
Yeah.
You know, but I just took them, put them in my room. You know, like a referee's going to throw a game for
bottle of vodka. Yeah.
The question is, who drank half the bottle?
I don't drink spirits.
Before you
But Russian champagne, Georgian champagne is something else.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned the Georgia-Albania game.
Yeah.
And after the under-21 game, they had what is called the official reception dinner, which the UEFA delegate is supposed to attend representing UEFA. And if it's only one match, they have it at lunchtime, you know, or before the match, where the representatives, you know, the officers of both nations meet, you know, have a meal.
Yeah.
So it was, Mr. Delegate, we have the official dinner tonight. You are welcome to come to we would like you at the game as the guest, blah, blah, blah. And on this side you had the Georgians, on that side you had the Albanians, with a few other guests there. And the leader of the Albanian delegation had the worst false hairpiece I have ever seen in my life.
Worse than Bruce Forsyth?
And the more he was drinking, it was actually moving around his head. And the amount of vodka and wine which went down, I'm clocking it, I'm working, you know.
Yeah.
Russian champagne, I had a few glasses, I was fine, but my God, it was going down.
Yeah.
So it's coming to the toasts now, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to go to bed now. Enough's enough. So the president of the Georgian FA, Shivadze, he played for the old USSR in the 60s and 70s. He said, I will have the last toast. So we all nodded solemnly. And he went, to God. The Albanian guy with the false hairpiece starts banging the table. Comrade, we are communists. We do not believe in your God. And I'm thinking, they got a diplomatic incident here.
Yeah.
So, in fairness to Shivaji, he just turned around and said, please, you're in my country. You will respect my toast. On the seventh day, when God was sitting in the garden of heaven, there was a knock on the garden gate. So he went to the gate and opened it, and a little man standing there went, God, I am a Georgian, and you have given me nowhere to live. So God said, come in, my son. You will live here, and I will create another heaven. And that is how Georgia was created. You know, a nice little story, polite applause.
Yeah.
Guy at the other end, he's banging the table. He stood up, and at which point his wig is now 90 degrees to his head. He said, your God. On the seventh day, he was and all this is through an interpreter, by the way.
Right.
He was sitting on the toilet. And when he finished, he looked down and said, that's Albania. And everybody sort of, oh. And that's when one has to be extremely diplomatic.
Yeah.
And having been to Albania 7 times, it has got better in recent years, in fairness.
Yeah.
The first time I went there, it was like wind your watch back about 75 years.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it must have been difficult, especially for those countries coming out of the USSR
The USSR in the 70s and 80s. I was one of a team of 3 officials on I was then the Champions Cup semi-final. Both teams had the same sponsors, it happened. It was Dynamo Kiev against Porto.
Wow, okay, yeah.
And we check in at the hotel, go up to the room, no plug in the bath, no toilet roll.
Wow.
So I go down to reception and, you speak English? Yeah. No plug for the bath. It's on the counter. no paper for the toilet. He gets a roll out. He's counting out the sheets.
Whoa.
How many you want? And he just left 4 there, you know.
Oh,
Not
There
enough.
for 3 days. Anyway,
one left over.
God. We go out and we see these queues for the shops. So I said to the liaison officer, the queues? Bread. Because we were asked at breakfast what we would like for lunch because they had to organise it.
Wow.
They had to go out and actually get what we wanted.
Well,
You were either a have or a have not.
Right.
You know. And flying Aeroflot in those days was no joke, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But talking of flights, first time I went to Kazakhstan, right, which is a long way.
Mm.
Right, I feel sorry for the Welsh fans who got there.
Yeah.
But when you get out there, it's, anyway, Swedish officials. I'm in business class and they're in economy for a 7-hour flight. So every hour I was sending them beer down from business class because the Swedes do like their beer. Anyway, we get there and there was no hotels in the city. So they rented a house. We were there for 8 days because of the flight times.
Mm.
And the internal flight was 4 hours because Kazakhstan is as big as Germany, France and Spain put together.
Yeah, it's massive. Isn't it?
And you'd flown Lufthansa business class, which is pretty good. You arrive, you get there, we go to a hotel and say, well, we now have to take an internal flight the next day. And it was a Yak 40
Right.
prop plane, which was in service at the end of the Second World War.
No way.
But we have to come down for after 2 hours to refuel. A place called Karaganda, which was the oil capital of Kazakhstan. So we come down to land, and there's myself, the 4 match officials, and the liaison officer. We're the only ones on the plane. It was like a private charter. So they said, you have to get off the plane while they refuel it. Okay. Temperature was 42, 43 degrees.
Wow.
It was hot. Right?
Yeah.
So we get off. Pilot gets off the plane, and the fuel tanker comes up. It's got a hose pipe on the back, and the pilot connects the hose pipe to the wing, and it's a hand crank. And he's cranking the fuel on. Now, bear in mind, this is 2004.
Wow.
He's cranking the fuel. As he's doing that, he bloody lit a cigar. We all double-legged it about 100 yards away. And then we're up again and come down. You know, and that's what the facilities were like there.
Yeah.
I went back a second time, it was a lot better. But an internal flight on a wide-body jet could be up to 4 hours.
Wow.
Still in the same country.
Yeah, huge place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I'm lucky. I've been to places I'd have never have been to without football.
Yeah.
Just want to touch on one sort of fairly recent incident regarding David Coote, the referee, and what happened with all of that. What's your thoughts on that quickly?
Well, everybody knew Dave Coote was gay.
Mm.
Not a sin, is it? You know, no. What he did, you can't defend it. You know, and if he was actually filmed snorting, then you take the punishment that's going, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, pity because he was regarded as one of the best VARs in Europe. You know, as a referee, you know, you can't really compare like for like because you look at the English FIFA referees now compared to the likes of Courtney, Hackett, Beachley, Joe Worrell, Howard Webb, Martin Atkinson. Obviously, Oliver and Taylor outstanding.
Yeah.
I think the next was John Brooks is coming up behind them and Chris Kavanagh. Watch out for a lad called Sam Barrett
Right, okay.
because he's about 6'3" and got a good build on him because the important thing for any referee, you've got to have presence on the park.
Mm.
It might not be being built like a WWE wrestler, but you've got to have presence.
Mm.
And the greatest gift any referee can have is awareness of what's going on around him. You could be winding him up and you could be biting. And if I'm aware of it, I make sure they know I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Portsmouth game against Derby earlier on the last day of the season. Centre forward for Sheffield United, Peter With.
Right, okay.
He could handle himself. Centre half, Portsmouth, Noel Blake. Right? He could handle himself. 2 physical giants. Right? And they give it, they took it, and they get on with it.
Mm.
They knew when to. They couldn't overstep the mark. And my line would be something like, if Peter With gave him one to start, and then Noel Blake got his retaliation a few minutes later, I go, oh, you two, one each. I'm having the third. Fine.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, I'm not so sure.
Mm.
You know, how do you have banter with an Italian, a Korean, a Spaniard, a Uruguayan, an Argentinian, a Frenchman?
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually.
It's
You can't.
Take some more language classes, maybe.
You know, they don't understand old-fashioned British humour, do they?
Yeah. And I suppose there's like especially like South American culture is more of like trying to con the referee a little bit, isn't it, with the diving and things like that.
You know, if a player was, for want of, cheating, going down too easy, making most of minimal contact, players in the 80s and 90s would leave him to us.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We'll sort him out, just leave him to us, no problem. You know, and they'd let him know that what was happening. You go down again like that, mate, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have to do anything. And that's part of your management skills, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Should he be taught a lesson by his
Peers, like
I wouldn't say superiors, but by his equals?
Yeah.
Or does he want me to make a fool of him?
Yeah.
Have the lesson.
Well, talking of good reffing, I think it might be time to do a short now. We'll do
yeah.
we'll do a winner stays on, best ref. Okay. So if I read out some names, it's going to be you first. There's no surprises. Yeah. So we're going to do who's the best ref and who's getting sent off. Basically,
it's just your opinion, Ian.
Yeah, just your
like
opinion.
Just
a bit of fun. Winner stays on. Yeah. So there we go. Rodger Gifford or Paul Alcock.
I never got pushed over.
Rodger wins. Rodger Gifford or Graham Paul.
I didn't have his arrogance.
Rodger wins again. Rodger Gifford or Uriah Rennie.
He was the fastest 17-stone bulk of muscles I've ever seen in my life. Yuri was a bloody good referee.
Uriah? Yeah. Okay. Uriah Rennie or Martin Atkinson?
2 totally different characters. You couldn't miss Yuri because of his physical presence.
Yeah.
Martin was very quiet, going about his business. And if there was a fracas, Yuri'd be in the middle of it. He'd jump in because he's a black belt.
Yeah, okay.
He'd get stuck in there. But Martin Atkinson would always be a top-class referee for me.
Okay. Martin Atkinson or Jeff Winter?
Atke.
Atkinson or Kevin Lynch?
Lynch is a better comedian.
Yeah?
Yeah, Lynch.
Okay, Kevin Lynch or Mark Clattenburg?
Well, we all know how good a referee Clattenburg was. As a person, that's another matter.
Okay. So who's getting the nod there?
As a referee, Clattenburg.
Okay. Mark Clattenburg or Mike Dean?
2 different contrasting characters. Clattenburg would be the better referee, but the players would sooner have Dean.
Okay, Mike Dean or Howard Webb?
Oh, it's got to be Webby, hasn't it?
And then Howard Webb or Michael Oliver?
I was Michael's mentor
Okay.
before he made the Premier League. But Michael was the first person to referee a Football League game when he wasn't a Football League referee.
Right.
At Hereford and Grimsby. He was 20, 21, but he'd been identified as, and 2 different bills. But at the moment, I'd go with Webby because he's done the World Cup final.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say Kalina. I've actually observed Kalina.
Okay, well, I'll add him on then. Howard Webb or Pierluigi Collina?
The most professional referee I've ever come across is Collina, because 2002 we used to get our appointments by fax, and if my fax in the house went off at 7 o'clock in the morning, that's 8 o'clock in Switzerland. Fax comes through, you are appointed referee observer, UEFA Cup, Fulham, England versus Hertha Berlin, Germany. Oh, I thought, well, I can drive up the M4. That was fine. And they never put the name of the referee on it. It was never announced until a couple of days before the match.
Okay.
But this guy, René Eberle, I was telling you about,
Yeah.
he put a handwritten note on the bottom. We would value your opinion on this young up-and-coming referee from Italy called Collina. 5 months earlier, he just refereed the World Cup final.
Yeah.
But he was an absolute joy to work with. So professional in his preparation. You know, the guy looking after us said, we're taking you to Harrods shopping. And he said, no, you're not. I know who the owner of Harrods is. He's the owner of Fulham.
Wow,
We
yeah.
go to Selfridges.
Yeah.
And he said, when we go back, because they'd flown into Gatwick, I do not want to be stuck in traffic. I know what the M25 is like and the M23. We will go to Gatwick on the train. So please ensure we get to the station. And on Oxford Street, because he was instantly recognisable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he was stopped with kids, grandmothers, men, boys, all wanting photographs, selfies, and he stopped for everyone.
Did he?
Everyone.
Oh, class act.
And dinner after the match, and I said, Pierluigi, don't you ever get fed up? Well, this is business. This is what we are part of the game. We have to project the good image. But if I'm with my wife and children, never.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But he was absolute class act in fairness to him.
Yeah, he's regarded as the best ever, isn't he? By everyone, I think.
With you mentioned Pierluigi Collina. He had a different type of presence, didn't he, to someone like you are, and he's obviously a physical specimen, but it's the stare, wasn't it? It was just so, it was like iconic, really.
There's a lovely clip which we used on a training video when he's refereeing Czech Republic against Netherlands. And Edgar Davids could be a bit naughty on times. Thomas Rebke wanted to have a go, and then he wouldn't stop. And he walks towards Collina, and Collina's, like his head extends from his shoulder,
Yeah.
and the eyes are bulging, and Collina's actually doing that. And the referee is pushing him away. You know, which didn't go down too well at headquarters, but you didn't mess with Collina.
Yeah.
You know.
He had
But he
that
was
presence.
never the top referee in Italy.
Really?
The media made him. There was a guy called Stefano Braschi, who for about 5-6 years on the trot was always rated number 1 in Italy.
Oh, wow, okay. So he got all the gigs, and yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong, Pierluigi, a brilliant referee.
Yeah.
You know, people say he was the only referee with VAR in his eyes. But he could speak 5-6 different languages. He studied the tactics of the team. You know, so
Yeah. You mentioned about the preparation, and what does actually go into a referee's preparation? Obviously, you mentioned he was researching the areas he was visiting, making sure there's no conflicts of interest.
He'll look at the tactics of the teams. He'll look if they play holding midfield, or if they play it out from the back, or do they have the keeper everybody push up to the halfway line? Because refereeing is all about positioning.
So the tactics
Yeah.
directly aid your positioning in the field.
Part of the art of refereeing is position yourself to your best advantage, not the player's best advantage. You know, because credibility lends presence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be 5 yards away and give a decision, it might be accepted even though it's wrong. You can be 30 yards away and you give a decision, somebody's going to argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can you see from there what's that effect?
Yeah, he was. He could see everything, man, couldn't he? He had like eyes like a praying mantis, didn't he?
Oh, the whites of his eyes were massive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another fun short as well is build a player to ref. Build a player to referee. So I'm gonna say like, first one is mouthiest. So you just give me a player name and then I'll go down a list of other
You're always going to get talkative players.
So
Ian Wright was the biggest bloody wind-up merchant God ever put on a football pitch.
So if I say mouthiest, would you say Ian Wright?
Not necessarily at the referee. There are some players who are constantly chipping. Nobody really stood out because today you see it more often that there are some players like Jordan Henderson at Liverpool would always be in the referee's face. You know, we could politely tell them to go away and they would. You know, I think the referees in my day had more respect.
Yeah.
You know, when I see some of the things that go on television now, and I'm thinking of the referees of my era, we wouldn't have put up with it.
Yeah.
You know, the clubs have got too much power now.
So who are you going to go for the mouthiest? If I had to push you for a name,
Steve Meaden.
Yes. I wish I played Premier League then.
Straight on the short, that is.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Funniest.
Funniest player. Well, John Fashionow, for example, was always cracking jokes, but he could never remember people's names. And when the assistants were checking the nets before the match, he would always ask the assistant, "What's the referee's name?" And he'd come up to you and he'd greet you like you're his long-lost brother. "Hi, Rog, how's it going? Nice to see you again." Con man.
Biggest moaner?
Me. No. People had a moan, but we didn't really have moaners. You know, nowadays people will moan even over a bloody throw-in. You know, back then just got on with it.
Any names come to mind about, you know?
I might be done for libel.
Okay, hardest to deal with?
The Wimbledon team were no angels. The Luton team were no angels, but you've got to go out there, I'm going to win this game. You know, I remember doing a game in Istanbul, Galatasaray versus Katowice. The first leg, there was a referee doing his first game in Europe and it ended up a bloodbath. In between was the equivalent of the Nations League now. Poland played Turkey and half of each team were playing, and I got the third leg and ended up with 3 red cards to the Katowice players. What was going on that pitch was, it was violence. So but each of us, myself and my 3 colleagues, we had a personal armed guard wherever we went. And the third red card, I'm reaching for the card. I always get my card in the back pocket because 9 times out of 10, you know it's a red card. But sometimes it's just got that odd occasion, thinking time. And I thought, he's going. And as I'm reaching like that and pulling the card out, Katowice player went to grab the card out of my hand. And my personal bodyguard, who was sitting behind the 4th official, starts coming on the field with a gun to sort him out.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, after the match, you can imagine Istanbul, middle of September, temperature 91, 92 degrees.
Yeah.
You need a bit of fluid after that. Anyway, liaison officer said, come on, let's go and grab a beer. And he took us to this complex, a bit like St David's Centre in Cardiff, if you like, but a rooftop garden overlooking the Bosphorus. And sitting there, pint of lager, goes down. You can imagine, doesn't touch the side. Second one goes down, doesn't touch the side. I'm on the third one. One of my colleagues, little Martin Evans from Newcastle 11, 7.5 stone soaking wet.
Wow.
But if I had World War III, he's the guy I want with me. Right? The brilliant colleague. And he's sitting there and he'd matched me beer for beer. After the third one, he went, "Oh, Rodger, boy, back." He said, "I'm dying for a piss." And okay, so I turned to Sammy, our liaison. Is Sammy, toilet?
Yeah.
So he said something in Turkish to a security guard. So the security guard said, "Come in." It was like walking from here to the door over there. So he gets to the door, he pulls his pistol out, opens the door, and he goes in and goes, out, out, out. He's getting people out at gunpoint so we can go to the toilet. Right? So I'm standing there thinking, what a relief. And little Martin goes, oh, Roger, boy, I can't go now. That bloody gun's making me nervous. You know, but that game ended up in having to go to Geneva for a hearing. Katowice appealed against the fine and the suspensions. And the morning of the hearing, they sent a fax saying, we're not coming.
Oh, wow.
But we still had to go in. So everything in these meetings is done through simultaneous translation. So there's 3 guys at the back, you know, translating into whatever the language is, Serbo-Croat, Russian, whatever. So I go in first, so the chairman says, please get Mr. Evans, number 1 assistant. Okay. So I said to Martin, simultaneous translation, Martin, go in and speak Welsh. And he goes in and he looks at the chairman and he goes, Bore da. And you could see the simultaneous translation guys going. They couldn't understand what was being. Oh, would it help if I spoke English? But what UEFA did, because they didn't come, they just doubled the suspensions and doubled the fines.
Ah, well, yeah.
They didn't mess about. Man. So I got a freebie trip to Geneva, 5-star Hilton Hotel, good meal.
Yeah, there's a done
Nice.
deal then.
Yeah.
Okay, did you want to wrap up with the
Q&A?
questions? So we're just going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. Hopefully nice and simple, and then we'll wrap up there. We just want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
It's flown by.
Sorry.
That's fun, boy.
Yeah, so first question, what is the toughest or the toughest ground that you would referee in atmosphere-wise? I know you said you kind of block it out, but...
the old Den, Millwall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Den.
Not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
There's a lovely story about John Deakin, referee, when he was a linesman based in Bedford. And the far end, he came out behind the goals. And he goes down the far end, which is called the chicken run.
Right, yeah.
And he was greeted, the polite version is, who's stuffing your wife when you're down from Bedford? Like, and he said he got home, put his kit bag in the hallway, and the first thing his wife said to him was, oh, I've had a lovely afternoon. So the old Den.
I'll go on with the sort of atmosphere. What's the biggest crowd attendance you've refed in front of?
110,000 Kiev.
110,000 people.
Wow.
Mad.
But it's not the same as the grounds here, because it was an open concrete bowl. You know. And the only ground the hairs on my neck have ever stood up is walking down the tunnel at Anfield when they say never walk alone. There's something special about that.
Yeah.
Celtic do it as well, but it's not a patch on Liverpool.
Yeah. What's your most memorable encounter on or off the pitch? You may have touched on this in the pod, but what would be the top encounter?
I've met so many good people in the game. I've met some no other words for it, bastards I wouldn't give the time of day to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't name them. They know who they are because I've made my feelings clear. But I've met very, very many good people in the game of football. I mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson earlier.
Yeah.
And give you an insight to what he's like off camera.
Yeah.
You know, top of the tree. You know, people like Mick McCarthy.
Yeah.
You know, as a manager, what you saw was what you get, and he'd come and talk to you. And then I'd remind him about Mango's nightclub in Dublin, and he'd shut up. You know, Tony Pulis, Graham Turner. You know, these are all good blokes.
Yeah. If you could change one rule within the football to maybe either back how it was or to improve the game, what do you think rule change wise would help improve the game at the minute?
The rules are quite simple. They're laws. Are quite simple. You're always going to... I could show you 3 a clip now. You'd be undecided. You'd go red. You'd go yellow. When I was managing referees in Wales and going around the clubs, I'd have managers and coaches of the same team arguing. One says it's red, the other says it's yellow. And I'm going, you've seen it 6 times. what chance the referee got when he's only sees it once?
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't tinker with the laws. Just let the referee really get on with it.
Yeah.
Well,
So more control to the referees to make the decisions. Yeah.
Well, on similar lines, really, that again. What's the worst challenge you've ever seen?
Well, Fashion News on Bond was not particularly pretty. Well, and one game where a player was stretching and a fullback came in and just stamped on the back of the calf and broke his leg. Oh, it was nasty. He heard the crack.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was from here to this camera away, and I got there first and just got the lad off the back.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd have had a 22-match brawl. You know, because in my last season, there was a game between Gillingham and Fulham, which ended up with a broken leg where a player had stamped on somebody. That ended up as a brawl, and I got the return leg. I didn't have a booking. Simply because the Fulham goalkeeper, who was about 16 stone, Jim Starling, came out to punch the ball, and his follow-through knocked the guy on the head, who goes face down, and I'm there, turn him over quickly, recovery position, got the tongue out, and the players, great. 90 minutes, no bookings.
Christ.
You know.
Imagine that these days.
Yeah.
Flat out knockout,
Well, actually,
basically.
I was Football League referees officer. What have I done to upset you giving me this game?
Is there a decision in your career that you wish you could go back and you maybe make a different decision?
I'd like to be home before midnight. Yeah, we've all made mistakes.
Yeah.
You know.
Is there one that sticks out though? You think,
You think about the handball with Dibble, but if you're writing law, forget the spirit of the law. If law states it's that, nobody can criticise that.
Yeah.
When something is open to interpretation, right, it's then subjective, isn't it?
Yeah.
You might think yes, you might think no.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
I was never afraid to make a decision. I'd stand off all by my decisions, and when I got on the referees list first, you had 2 years to prove yourself. Because if you didn't, you were off after 2 years.
Yeah.
So at least I lasted the pace.
Yeah. My one is like similar, like going back. But if you could like re-ref one game or relive that one moment from throughout your career, which game or would you like to go back and ref
Just
again?
from the pleasure of it.
Just from the experience of it and
Well, you
relive
got
that moment.
you got the Manchester United Everton game, which was special.
Yeah.
But the last season of the old Football League Division 1,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
on the last day, on the Sunday, you had Leeds playing Sheffield, one of the Sheffield United, I think it was, and Liverpool, Manchester United, and I had the Liverpool Man U game,
Right. Okay.
and that was sheer football, absolute joy to referee.
So it'd be that one. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, referees normally get the best view in the house of the game. What's the best player you've seen live?
Different positions. It's
Yeah.
impossible to say he's the best player I've ever seen, but the best player in a position, like I said earlier, Nevis Southall is the best goalkeeper I've ever seen.
Yeah.
His pre-match was unbelievable. Is there a finer sight than Ryan Giggs going down the at speed?
True.
Yeah.
Mark Hughes with his back to goal. I mentioned Papa. I mentioned this Brazilian centre-half, Moser.
Yeah.
These were players, There was a centre-half at Derby called Igor Stimac.
Yeah, Croatian.
Yeah. He was class. Nothing flamboyant, but, he could play. And, of course, when I was a kid, Franz Beckenbauer, what a player he was. And I've actually met him several times later. And that game I mentioned at Bayern Munich, I was actually sat next to him in the director's box at Munich. And I said to him, is there any chance of purchasing a Bayern Munich shirt with your autograph? And he looked at me, he said, well, my autograph? Well, I said, in my country, you are, you're up there with Bobby Charlton and all the rest of them. You would be in the referee's room. Half an hour later, he came down with 2 bags. And he said,
Wow.
here is the home shirt with my autograph. Here is the team shirt with the team's autograph. And And he said, "You tell me that you are going to a dinner to raise money for children's football?" "Yes." "You must tell me how much money you make." I went back to Munich 2 years later, and he saw me, and his first words were, "How much money?"
Yeah.
You know, it raised a couple of £100, but it was for under 12s, under 14s football.
Yeah. Brilliant.
What's the funniest abuse or comment you've had on a football pitch as a ref? Fans, players, whatever.
West Brom Arsenal, first season as a referee, last game of the season. And West Brom had a centre-half called Marvin Bennett, who was built like a brick outhouse. Charlie Nicholas was playing for Arsenal.
Champagne Charlie.
And he put Charlie Nicholas in the first row of the stand in the first minute. And we were a little bit more relaxed in those days. And Nicholas just got up and got on with it. And I went, "You all right, Charlie?" "I'll sort him out in a minute. I'm okay." So I looked at Marvin Bennett and I said, "You know what happens next time?" "Yeah." Then. So I started to back pedal, and Charlie Nicholas had gone down and tried his bootlace up, and I went arse over tip over in front of 28,000 people. So the comments were like, "Book the ref for a dive in," or "Who's the bastard in the black?" So I started doing that. And they all cheered.
Yeah.
Got a bollocking off the assessor mind for playing to the crowd, but
Yeah.
I had the crowd on my side after that.
It's quickly just that split second.
Referees have got to have character.
Say, what else can you do in that moment, really? Can you?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, final question. We usually ask who is the GOAT. It's hard to, like you said, who is the best player. But for you, in your opinion, either as a fan, even or like, who is the best player you think that you've seen in your lifetime?
Individual player. I've seen so many of them.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen them all over Europe. I wouldn't, Zidane, I think, would be pretty close to the top of the tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
His performance in the semi-final against Juventus had to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
Figo was a pretty good player. The best individual performance over 90 minutes, Zidane in the Champions League semi-final.
Zidane. Okay.
Brilliant.
Great.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up there, but we really appreciate you coming on the show today, and we thank you for your time. And we just want to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget, if you want to watch new episodes, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get involved in the debate, drop a comment in the comment section. But that's it for this time, guys. Have a world-class weekend.